Hello class, and welcome to this series where we make this beautiful application right here that allows users to log in, register, posts, and like and comment and view all these posts and interact with them and do all sorts of things. Before we dive deeper, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now and hit the bell button so that you'll get these videos as my humble attempt to provide value and contribute to the amazing developer community, and so that I can have you in my cool classroom. Alright, so this app right here will, if I will demonstrate right now, will allow us to register users. And if we click here register, we get as well some client-side validation, which is based on server-side validation, that we get some errors from the server and show them on the client. And if I were to go to log in here and put some valid credentials, so I'll put Jane, put 1 through 6, and we log in, and there we go. I log in, and right now this says log out, and I get this form that I can use to submit new posts. And if I say hello from Jane and put some exclamation marks and hit enter, we get this new post created, and it immediately adds it to our front end, to our markup. And we get, on our post, we get these delete buttons so that we can delete the post. If I hit delete, we get this model, and we click OK and it's deleted. And we can unlike and we can like posts. If we click on the comment button, it takes us to this single post page, and we see here comments. We can delete our own comment and we can post new ones, and it updates immediately. And cool thing about this app is that it's using Apollo. We'll be using Apollo to interact with our GraphQL backend. And one cool thing that we can use is this library called Apollo cache in memory, so that we don't have to do any state management. So if I were to show you right here, if I were to go to the network tab, and if I were to clear everything, I'll just reload. I'll show you that right now we requested the data from the server, but if I were to go to this one post, it would request that post. But if I were to go back, it doesn't send any request again, because this is already cached in the Apollo cache, which is pretty cool. So if I were to go to that post again, there's no request sent to our server, so it's really efficient. If I were to go to a new one, now it sends a request. So, and we don't have to write a lot of code. It's pretty good, this library for managing our data on the front end. And for the UI, we'll be using Semantic UI, which is this brilliant UI framework that imagine it as if it's Bootstrap plus a lot of customizability. You can change variables, button sizes, themes, a whole suite of stuff that we get, so that we can make really good looking applications without having to write one line of CSS. Alright, so as many of you know, this application will use the backend of that's based on the series I created a while ago, the GraphQL Server series. If you haven't done that, I highly suggest that you do this first, the series, and then come back to do the front end. But if you insist, you're like, no, I don't touch the back end, I only do the front end stuff, that's still fine. There's a link in the description for the GitHub repository for this code, for this server code, but make sure to grab the one on the master branch, because there's other branches for the different videos, and you can just clone this, and then in that directory you run npm install to install the dependencies, and then you run npm start, and your server will start on port 5000, and you get this beautiful GraphQL playground. And here I suggest that you go through the schema right here and understand what all these queries do before we dive into the React code, so that later when we use Apollo to fetch and manipulate our data on the server, you'll understand what's happening. And one thing to note is that I've put back this config.js file, which holds a connection string to a database that I made. You can put your own database here, whether it be local or remote, or you can still use this database. That's fine by me. To the people that did the server code, I want to tell you that I made one little change in the post resolvers right here in the create post. I just added this if statement right here. If the body of the post is empty, it throws an error, because this is a server validation thing that I forgot to do in the series. You just add this one if statement. Alright, so that's that for the demonstration of the app and explaining things around. Alright, so let's actually jump into the setup and into the code. All right, let's open up our code base using VS Code. And so here I want to create a folder and put our React app in there. But we don't need to do that because we're going to use the create React app tool, and it's going to do that for us. So here we'll say npx create React app. I'll call this folder client because that's the client application, and the rest of the code on this folder is the server application. All right, so I'll let that install and I'll be back once it's done. All right, now that it's done installing, let's open up this client folder. And here I'll clean a couple of things. So we'll not be using this logo, so I'll delete it. We will not be using this index CSS, so I'll delete that. I'll delete everything, like remove everything in the app CSS because we're going to be using semantic UI. I'll delete this app test file, and actually in the public, I'm going to change the title of the app. I decided to call this Hi World because it's a social media app. So I'll call this Hi World like this, and save that. Let's go back to the source folder, and here in the app I'm gonna delete everything inside of here. I'll just have a div for now, and I'll have a header one says Hi World like this. Of course we'll remove the import for the logo because that doesn't exist anymore. And yeah, let's save all of this and let's see. Let's start our server. So here we'll say npm start, and in a different terminal we'll go to the we'll cd into the client folder and we'll say npm start. So now we started the server, now we'll start the client. Okay, it says can't resolve index CSS. Yes, because something is importing it. Yeah, it's the index.js is importing that, and we deleted it. All right, so the app is started. And cool, we get Hi World, and hopefully no errors, probably none. Yes, no errors. And if we go back to our app, I notice if each time I save, both the development server of the server and the client are restarting because of nodemon on the server. So let's go here, and in the package.json, we don't want nodemon right now because we're not making any changes on the server code. So we'll add another script here and say serve. And here we'll say just node index. And of course now if we run serve, let's say npm run serve. Now each time we make any changes, it will not re-trigger that restart the server. The server, not the client server. All right, so should be fine now. And here in the app, what we need to do right now, we want to set up our Apollo client. Our Apollo provider, and provide our Apollo client to our application so that we will be able to connect to our GraphQL server. We could do it in the app.js, but I would rather have it in a separate component, and here we'll call it Apollo provider.js. And actually we need to install a couple of dependencies to get that. So here in a terminal window we'll say, actually make sure you're in the client folder, so cd client. And here in the client folder I'm going to say npm install. We're going to install a couple of things. First is the Apollo /React hooks. Did I mention we're going to be using only hooks here? If you're not familiar with hooks, I have a series on hooks on this channel if you want to dive deeper into that. So we're going to install Apollo cache in memory. What do we need? Let me look. So we need Apollo link HTTP. Link HTTP. And we need Apollo client, of course. So Apollo client. All right, that's it for now. Let them install, and let's go to the provider. Here, this provider is basically gonna export a JSX element. So we need React. So we'll say import React from React. Here what we're going to export is a Apollo provider that wraps the application, the entire app. So we need to import the app into this provider. So here we'll say import app from the same directory /app like this. And we need Apollo client. So we say import Apollo client from Apollo-client. Here we import the in-memory, the cache in-memory library. So here we'll say import, what is it called? In-memory cache, yes. In-memory cache. from Apollo cache in memory. And usually you'll install a library called Apollo Boost and it does all of this for you, but I've had issues with Apollo Boost when it comes to authentication tokens and saving them and setting a middleware for checking a token. So I'm gonna do the setup myself. Here we'll say import. It's just a tiny setup. It's just one file that you write and you'll never touch again. So here we'll say create HTTP link. We need this from let me type this. We need it from Apollo link HTTP. So here we'll say from Apollo link HTTP. We're importing a bunch of things. This is the last one. This is Apollo provider. So this is the JSX element that will provide the client to our app, and this is gonna come from Apollo at Apollo/React hooks. All right, so here we'll say const HTTP link. We'll just instantiate, or actually we need to call that. So we'll say create HTTP link, and here we'll pass it some options. We just need the URI for now, and this is going to be pointing to our GraphQL server. So what is the endpoint for our server, which is just localhost 5000. So we'll say HTTP, and here we'll say localhost 5000. Of course, this in production, this will be different, so bear in mind. Here we'll create our client, so we'll say const client equals new Apollo client. And here we'll pass a link, which is this HTTP link that we created. And we'll pass a cache value that will store any cached data. And here we'll just instantiate the in-memory cache. So you'll say new in-memory cache like this, call it like that. And here we just need to export this provider. So we'll say export default, and we'll export Apollo provider. And this takes a client, which is gonna be the client that we created right here. And this will wrap the app. So we need to put the app here. And now we need to use this in the index.js. So here we'll say import, what is it? Apollo provider from same directory, Apollo provider. And here, instead of rendering the app, we just pass this Apollo provider. So like this. So we don't need the app. And actually we don't need any JSX elements here. So we don't need React. So we can just do that. Let's save everything and let's make sure that our app is still running. Okay, so import error Apollo provider not exported. Is it not exported? Oh, here it's Apollo provider like that. And we need to put it here as well, Apollo provider. Let's save. All right, it runs just fine. And if we go to our app, it says hi world. Of course, there's no difference, but by the way, did I mention you need to install Apollo DevTools for Chrome? You can say Apollo DevTools Chrome and go here and just add it to your Chrome as an extension. And if you're using any other browser, maybe you'll find it, maybe not, I don't know. So you just add it to your browser. And here, if I click F12, actually, let me refresh this. Click F12. Where is the Apollo? Did I not add it? Okay, for some reason I had to close the DevTools and open them again. All right, so here in Apollo we get this graphical tool, the same tool that we get on our server endpoint. And here if we say query, say get, there we go, we're getting our queries right here. That means our Apollo provider in our app is actually accessing the server. And if we say get posts, I want to get the ID and get the body, and click Control Enter, and there we go. We're actually fetching the posts from our database, and our Apollo provider is connected to our server, and everything is working fine. All right, so I'll keep this video short. In the next video, we're gonna start to work on our different pages. We're gonna implement our routes and yeah, get going with the more functionality. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.